Today is the March for Life, when thousands upon thousands of people gather in Washington to protest abortion, while journalists put their collective fingers in their collective ears and whistle collective Dixie, hoping the march will magically go away. It won't, and neither will the issue. Yesterday, I gave a speech here in Gainesville at the University of Florida. It was a great occasion. The Young America Foundation students did a terrific job organizing it and publicizing it. It had an SRO crowd of absolutely great kids. And I spoke about the pursuit of happiness and how it requires liberty so that people can learn to love what's good and seek it out of their own free will. But of course, there's something else that the pursuit of happiness requires, and that's life. Life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness are rights given to us by God so that we can fulfill the purpose of our creation, which is the freely chosen love of righteousness, which turns out to be in God. Governments, as the Declaration goes on to tell us, are instituted to secure those rights, life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, among others. So a government that does not secure them has failed at every level to fulfill its only purpose. When a woman walks into a clinic to have an abortion, there is only one person in the room who has no vote and no voice. The unborn child is the least among us. And if we the people don't speak up for him, no one here on earth will. Our own Ben Shapiro is delivering the keynote at the march today. God bless my friend in that endeavor and all the marchers. More on this as we go on. There it was. I just want to continue on the subject of abortion for a couple of minutes and then get to the news of the day. There was a wonderful, wonderful piece in Town Hall by Casey Maddox, who I don't believe I've met. I don't believe I've heard of him, but it's a terrific piece called "The Texas Woman Who Should Be Dead." And I'm going to read some of it. I've got to cut it for space, for time, but go on to Town Hall and find this article, "The Texas Woman Who Should Be Dead" by Casey Maddox. It starts out, there's a 43-year-old woman born in Texas who should be dead right now. In fact, she should never have been born. 40 years ago, the Supreme Court decided that the Texas law that prevented Jane Roe from ending the life of her unborn daughter was unconstitutional. But by the time the Supreme Court issued its decision in 1973, she had already been born and adopted by a family, likely not knowing that all that ink spilled in Roe v. Wade was about her. Norma McCorvey is Jane Roe. She claimed then that her pregnancy was the result of a rape, although for over a decade now she has been outspokenly pro-life and publicly admitted that this and virtually every fact on which her case was built was a lie. Both McCorvey and Sandra Cano, the Doe of Doe v. Bolton, Roe's companion case from Georgia, decided the same day, are now outspoken pro-life advocates who have sworn that their cases are built on lies. But before the Supreme Court could decide whether McCorvey did have a constitutional right to end her unborn daughter's life, it had to overcome a procedural obstacle that slowed down the process, a delay that factored into whether her daughter would ever have a family. Because of that delay, McCorvey had already had the child by the time the Supreme Court issued its decision in January 1973. The child had been adopted into a Texas home, perhaps somewhere in the Dallas area where McCorvey lived. Fortunately for her, for that child, the wheels of justice grind slowly. Today, somewhere, maybe still in Texas, there lives a 43-year-old woman, perhaps with a family and a career of her own, with beautiful children that she loves dearly, perhaps with a husband and family that can't imagine life without her. The 55 million other babies deserved that same chance at life. Like McCorvey's daughter, they were all created in the image of a loving God and would have been loved and wanted by someone, and that's why we fight. Terrific piece by Casey Maddox. It's an amazing thing to contemplate, to me, that all of the facts that went into the decision, Roe v. Wade, were untrue. You know, everything about it was untrue, and that both Roe and Doe became pro-life advocates. That is an amazing thing to tell. But the thing that gets me about this story, about the fact that Roe's daughter is still alive, is that that's the story that doesn't get told, the story of the life someone would have lived if you hadn't aborted them. Every time a usually Republican or conservative comes out to be pro-life and they're in a debate, the news media, our reliably left-wing news media, asks that person, well, what about in the case of rape? What about in the case of incest? Which, by the way, accounts for very, very few cases of abortion. But nobody ever asks the pro-abortion candidate, what about in the case when you're going to have a girl and you don't want a girl, you want a boy? What about in the case when the child is going to have red hair and you want it to have blonde hair? What about in the case where the child is going to be born Capricorn and you want it to be born Taurus. They never ask those cases because a lot of people who are aborted for those reasons as well. The other question that people don't ask pro-abortion candidates is what would that life have been like? What would that life have been like? Do you have genes that might have helped your child sing or dance or simply just become a mother or a father who would have had children who would love them? Those are the voices that aren't being heard. Those are the stories that aren't being told. The March for Life is a chance for us, we, the living, the people who weren't aborted, to tell those stories. We have to take that opportunity. We have to tell them, and we have to keep telling them until a government that was instituted among men to secure the right to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness is in fact ensuring all three: life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness.